You speak without thought. You use words to explain, defend, and define. They seem like instruments of thought, something that follows, not something that acts. Yet Abdul Al Qadar al-Jilani taught that every word is a cause, not an effect. He said the universe itself unfolds from the divine command, the word be. What you utter, even in ordinary speech, participates in that same creative law. Each word, he said, aligns with the name of God or resists it. The question is not whether your speech is powerful, it already is, but whether you are aware of what it creates. If every word grants permission for something to exist, what kind of world are you continuously allowing into being? You rarely question the words you use. You call them expressions, habits, or communication. Yet look closer. They do more than express you. They define you. Each phrase carries a hidden motive: to prove, to protect, to persuade, to belong. Abdul Al Qadar would say this is an unconscious invocation. You call reality by names without knowing which truth or illusion those names serve. You may say, "I failed," and the phrase becomes a world you then inhabit. The tongue is never idle. Even silence speaks by what it avoids. If thought shapes perception, then word seals it. What if the life you live is the accumulation of unexamined speech, a world built not by events, but by the language that named them? Abdul Al Qadar al-Jilani lived in 12th century Baghdad, a city of law, theology, and spiritual search. He was both jurist and mystic, master of outer discipline and inner realization. In his school, speech was not a human tool, but a reflection of divine action. He taught that creation is not a single event, but a continuous command, an unbroken be. The human word, when uttered with awareness, mirrors that command. When spoken from ignorance, it fragments what it tries to describe. His method was simple, yet absolute. Purify speech until it reflects truth itself, and the world will begin to answer differently. To name is to give form to understanding. In Abdul Al Qadar's view, this power of naming was the trust given to humanity when God taught Adam the names. These were not vocabulary lists, but insights into the essence of things. When you name something incorrectly, calling gain peace or loss failure, you distort its true order. Every false name becomes a veil. He said the reform of perception begins not in outer change, but in correcting the word through which reality is known. You may not alter what happens, but you can change the truth you assign to it. Misnaming divides. Right naming restores harmony. Which world do you live in? One defined by illusion or by truth called rightly? Abdul Al Qadar taught that to lie is not merely to deceive another, but to divide oneself. False speech breaks the unity between knowledge and being. The moment you say what is not real, your mind separates from the order of existence. The tongue begins to invent a world that does not correspond to truth, and confusion follows. He said reality withdraws from those who misuse speech. When words arise from self-interest, they no longer describe what is, but what the self wishes to control. But when the word serves truth, reality responds with clarity. To speak falsely is exile. To speak truly is return. What kind of exile does your speech create? Abdul Al Qadar required from his students a discipline that began with the tongue. He told them, "Let no word leave you unless it passes through truth." Every statement must be tested. Is it necessary, sincere, and real? Silence, he said, is not refusal but refinement. It gives the word time to become transparent. When speech rises from silence, It no longer carries residue of reaction. It arises from understanding. You begin to notice how often you speak to manage uncertainty, to fill space, or to avoid clarity. His discipline asks you to reverse this. Speak less but mean fully. In such restraint, words begin to regain their original power, not to decorate thought, but to reveal what is done in Abdul Al Qadar's metaphysics. All existence unfolds through the divine word, be. This command is not past. It is present, continuous, and unceasing. To speak truthfully is to align with this command. To speak falsely is to contradict it. The difference is not poetic but ontological. When your word reflects the real, life supports it. When it resists, life corrects it through conflict. Thus, every utterance is either cooperation or opposition to creation. You may believe you are describing reality, but in fact you are declaring your relationship to it. He would ask, when you speak, are you echoing the command that gives life, or trying to rewrite what was already perfectly spoken into being? You start to see that the force of speech lies not in the sound but in the will behind it. A word may appear kind, but carry subtle aggression. It may sound humble, but conceal pride. The intention shapes its reality. Abdul Al Qadar taught that every word arises from an inner state, and that state determines its effect. You cannot speak peace from a restless heart, nor truth from confusion. When speech becomes honest, it first purifies the one who speaks. The question shifts from what should I say to from where do I speak? Until intention aligns with awareness, every word remains divided against itself. At the highest level, Abdul Al Qadar said, the word becomes remembrance, dhikr. In remembrance, speech stops describing and begins recognizing. Every sincere word becomes prayer, not because it asks, but because it agrees with reality. When you say truth with full awareness, you call upon the divine name that sustains truth itself. The one who speaks in remembrance no longer uses language. Language uses them. Speech becomes a medium through which the divine affirms itself. Such speech does not persuade, defend, or perform. It simply discloses what is. In that moment, word and world coincide. When the tongue remembers its source, every utterance becomes a renewal of creation. What happens when your language becomes remembrance, not argument? You begin to understand why Abdul Al Qadar called speech a creative act. The world you meet each day is shaped by the language you have accepted as true. Say, I am lost, and your perception conforms to it. Say, I am being guided, and another order becomes visible. His method was not eloquence, but alignment. The word that changes worlds is the one that aligns with what already is, not what the self insists upon. To speak truthfully is to rejoin creation's flow. To resist, it is to multiply struggle. The transformation does not lie in volume or beauty, but in correspondence. Every word is a mirror of consciousness asking a single question: who is speaking through you now? At the end of inquiry, you see that mastery of speech is mastery of being. To speak is not to perform, but to witness the continuous command of creation. Silence is not withdrawal, but acknowledgement, the recognition that truth requires no ornament. Abdul Al Qadar's method dissolves the boundary between word and world. When the word becomes pure, it no longer describes reality. It becomes reality's continuation. You realize that the highest speech is not possession, but participation. What remains is quiet certainty. The word is not yours, yet through you, it sustains the world. To guard the tongue, then, is to guard creation itself. The journey began with the assumption that speech merely follows thought. It ends with the understanding that speech is thought's participation in creation. Abdul Al Qadar's ancient method turns every word into a test of awareness. Does it align with what is, or distort it for the self? Through conscious naming, truthful intention, and remembrance, language becomes revelation rather than reaction. The one who speaks in truth lives in truth. The one who listens to their own word learns who they truly serve, the self or the real. The word that changes worlds is not spoken to describe reality. It is spoken by reality itself, through the one who has become still enough to let it speak.